to the world? What have we done to the world? I burn into the Soviet. There's no place to hide. I burn into the Soviet. This is the final
Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum braucht er was zum Essen, bitte sehr. Es macht ihn ein Geschwätz nicht satt, das schafft kein Essen her.
Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, wo dein Platz genossen ist. Weil dich ein Genialwalter einheimst kommt, weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum hat der Stiefel im Gesicht nicht gern. Er will unter sich keinen Sklaven sehen und über sich keinen Herrn.
Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, wo dein Platz genossen ist. Weil dich ein Genialwalter einheimst kommt, weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Und weil der Prolet ein Prolet ist, drum wird ihn kein anderer befreien. Es kann die Befreiung der Arbeiter nur das Werk der Arbeiter sein.
Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, wo dein Platz genossen ist. Weil dich ein Genialwalter einheimst kommt, weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Здравствуйте, comrades. Who's ready for a full weekend of socialism? Guys, we've waited all year for this moment, and it has finally come. The Socialism 2024 conference is upon us. And no, I have not snuck off to Chicago to sneak in undercover again like I did last year. I'm sure the folks running the Socialism conference will be very thankful to see me on the internet in my house, not in Chicago, because they thought they got me last year. They thought they did. They preemptively banned me from the conference last year. They found out where I was staying and canceled my hotel reservation. And I still made it because I had another reservation under a fake name that they didn't know about. But you know what? We're not doing that this year. Yeah, hi, socialists. Hi, socialists. Hi. Hi, socialists. Oh no, YouTube unsubscribed you? Yeah, that happens all the time. Guys, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed because we have a full weekend of socialism ahead of us. Even though I am not in Chicago because I decided it was going to be too dangerous to go back again this year. We are still very blessed that the Socialism 2024 conference is streaming on the internet. And listen, this doesn't mean that, you know, I might not have hang on. There we go. This doesn't mean that I may have spies that are actually there. So let's not we'll see what comes of it. We'll see if anything good happens. You know, a lot of times when you go to stuff like this, it's really kind of like uneventful, to be honest about it. Yup, see, we're giving them a lull. It's important when you're doing espionage that you give people the semblance that things are okay. You give people the semblance that you're not trying to trick them anymore. And just when they've let their guard down, you swoop in and you do it all over again. And by next year, they will have already forgotten. Anyway, so we are still blessed that the Socialism 2024 conference is streaming all weekend long. Why is that so small? Can I make this bigger? Look, I can edit the layout on my screen now. Whoop. There we go. Can that just update? Look, I know how to use the internet and everything. And we are kicking off tonight. There's only one presentation tonight, guys, but we will be going all weekend long. We have a full weekend of socialism. If you have not seen it, I have posted about this on my Substack. You can find it at carlin.substack.com. If you want to find the full schedule, I will be here with you, suffering as I do just for you guys. But of course, you can pop in and out. There will be breaks throughout the weekend as we make our way through the latest in socialist propaganda. And so I have the full schedule that we're going to be following here up on the Substack. We are starting off tonight in but 20 minutes with a presentation called All Eyes on Palestine, Solidarity, Liberation, Intifada. And Linda Sarsour, the infamous Linda Sarsour, is going to be making an appearance tonight. Now, there's one presentation tonight. That's their big opening Friday keynote. But we are going all day tomorrow, and we are going all day Sunday. Tomorrow, we are starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time with the genocidal returns of lesser evilism, the U.S. elections, and left strategy with the Tempest Collective. The Tempest Collective is a far-left radical revolutionary socialist collective that have a huge presence at the Socialism Conference. You know that because every time the Tempest Collective says anything, they say, I'm such and such with the Tempest Collective, and they announce themselves as a recruiting mechanism. So they're going to be presenting at 11 a.m. tomorrow. This is all in Eastern Time. And then at 2 p.m., we're getting Dismantling Imperial Feminism with NYC for Abortion Rights, a good old reproductive justice session. At 4 p.m. Eastern Time, we're getting Capital and Abolition with Ruth Wilson Gilmore. Ruth Wilson Gilmore is the she kind of like she focuses on prison abolition, that's true, but a little term called racial capitalism. And I know that Bott and Reagan will never, ever forget the definition of racial capitalism. So they can let you guys know what racial capitalism means in the chat, because I think Bott even at some point wrote it on her wall because I ended a stream when they didn't know the definition of racial capitalism. So I know they will never, ever forget it. No, I don't think we're going to do the one with June Jordan. I think there's another one that we can do that's going to be better, but that doesn't mean we can't go back and watch. We can watch the ones that we missed because we aren't going to be able to watch all of them. There are some overlapping presentations. Then at 8 p.m. tomorrow, we're getting another Palestine presentation, Palestine and the Limits of International Law. I'm kind of ambivalent about this 8 p.m. one, if I'm honest about it. I'm kind of just like playing that by ear. I don't know if I actually want to do it, but we'll see. We'll see. Racial capitalism exploiting people of color for the benefit of capitalism. Thank you, Bot. Well done. Well done. Then on Sunday, we are also starting at 11 a.m. We are doing Unbuild Walls, Borders, Prison, and Abolition. Of course, those are all words for capitalism because they believe capitalism upholds borders, upholds prisons, and they need to abolish borders and abolish prisons in order to abolish capitalism. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be doing the political economy of COVID. Yes, socialists do still believe that COVID is still a thing. They do still believe that. And that is with someone named Jules Gill Peterson. Jules Gill Peterson is an insane person. Jules Gill Peterson is a trans history professor at Johns Hopkins University. And so, and I've seen we've actually watched Jules Gill Peterson on several occasions. So I want to see what Jules Gill Peterson has to say. Then at 4 p.m., we're doing Lenin and the Politics of Rehearsal. And then at 6 p.m., we are doing Dare to Win, Building on the Mass Protest Decade. And then we will retreat for movie night, for a decompression movie night in our supporter Discord where we will be watching the timeless classic that will allow us to kick up our feet and relax with A Clockwork Orange. So we are doing a full weekend of socialism. I might go insane. That's all right. I have plenty of beer. And then just to decompress at the end, we're all going to watch A Clockwork Orange together in the supporter Discord on Sunday at 8 p.m. It is a stacked schedule all weekend long. Who is ready for it? I'm ready for it, guys. Please make sure you mount that like button for me. Who's planning on being with me all weekend? Who's going to suffer with me all weekend? I'm going to watch all of this, but one of the things that is good about this is that we do get a lot of breaks. So look at this. We're going to get a break between 12:30 and 2 p.m. tomorrow. I'm going to have one live stream and just do the live stream the whole time. So we're not going to mess around with multiple live streams. We're going to get a little break 3:30 to 4 p.m. We're going to get another break 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. So there's going to be some downtime. We're not just going to go straight through. There's going to be decompression time. I might listen to some queer anarchism in between. We might do some other stuff in between. We might just take a break. At some point, I am actually going to have to eat. I know that I'm not allowed to talk about eating on the internet because I'm just way too fat and ugly for that, according to the internet. But at some point, I will actually have to eat on these 2 days. And so we might just take a little bit of a break. We might do stuff in between. You know, we're just gonna let it ride. Socialism weekend, you got to go all out. This only comes once a year. And we really got to go all out because we're not in Chicago, so we got to make the best of it. We got to do what we can. So it's going to be awesome, guys. I'm really looking forward to it. Now, along with this, I would really, 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 really like to do a little bit of a membership drive this weekend because I am going to be streaming all weekend long. And so we can do a super chat goal. I want to do a super chat goal as well. But the real goal that I have for this weekend is new Substack members. And I'll put a super chat goal and I'll put a Substack goal in the bottom banner. Substack goal 10 out of 100 so far. So, there we go. There we go. There's our goal. There's our goal in our progress bar on the bottom of the screen. So here's the deal, guys. I would really like to get some new members in my Substack. My Substack is basically the thing that funds all the work I'm doing. And you know what? I haven't been pushing memberships as much lately because we've been doing super chat goals. We've been doing other things, which I really, 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 really appreciate. But my Substack is the main funding mechanism for what I do with people who pay a monthly fee of $8 a month or people who pay an annual fee of $80 a month. And so I want to do, because I'm streaming all weekend long, I want to do a little bit of a membership drive. And I started this yesterday and we got like 10 people to sign up yesterday, which was pretty great. And what I want to do is I want to get 100 new members of my Substack. So if you are not yet a paying supporter on my Substack, this is going to be a perfect time to sign up for that. Now, I want to do I don't know, maybe we can do a little bit of a brainstorm. I don't know exactly what I want to do, but if we hit that goal, I want to do something special for people. I don't know exactly what that is, so we can maybe brainstorm some ideas about like what kind of reward we can get, what kind of reward you guys would want if we end up meeting that goal together. But that's what I want. We have 90 to go. And so I've got the Substack goal in the bottom. You can subscribe at carlin.substack.com/subscribe. If you want to see what it is, go to carlin.substack.com, link in the description below. My Substack is where I do all my breakdowns on the far left. I've got a video clip section. I've got the re-education series going. There's membership perks in terms of spy streams where we go inside live leftist training, stuff like that. We do weekly newsletters. We do stuff like that. And so that's my Substack, and this is the main funder of the work I do. So I want 100 new members this weekend, if possible. Fingers crossed, to really keep things on track with where I need to be at the end of the year, guys. Because the thing is, I work like 12 hours a day trying to research socialism and break down socialism and do all that stuff for you guys. And I show up for you guys, and I put up with a metric ton of crap on the internet just for you guys so we can learn about socialism, so we can teach other people about socialism. In return, I ask you guys to show up for me. Because if I can't get my work grassroots funded, and I've been doing a pretty good job of it the past couple of years, I'm in a much better position than most people like me. But if I can't have my work grassroots funded, then one of two things is going to happen. I'm either going to have to sell out and go to one of those big political funding organizations where I'm going to have to toe a line in terms of what I can talk about, and no one wants that. Or I'm going to have to go get a real job, which means I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. I'm going to go back to like corporate consulting, something like that. So my preference is I need my work to be grassroots funded by the people who appreciate it, the people who show up, the people who benefit from what I do, the people who learn what I do. I know I reach over 100,000 people every single month with my work across my, like on my Substack and on my YouTube channel. I reach literally millions of people on Twitter every single month with what I'm doing. Though Twitter sometimes maybe isn't as focused as it possibly could be, and I'll admit that. All right, I'll admit that. But I know I can get 100 of you to say, yeah, Carlin, the work you put in is worth it, and you're doing the best breakdowns of the far left on the internet, which is true. If we don't understand the enemy, we can't beat the enemy. And so what I'm trying to do is provide a resource on the internet to help everyone understand what's going on, to help everyone understand the language and all this stuff. And I need your help to be able to do it. So if you want to support the work I'm doing, help me meet my Substack goal for the weekend, head over to carlin.substack.com/subscribe. The link is in the description below, and you can help me meet that goal. And I would really, 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 really appreciate it. Another thing you can do is head over to the Unwoke Art Store. And I do have a socialism weekend special going in that I've selected 4 designs. We've got our classic real Marxism design. I'll show you these in a second. Let me just pop the link in the chat. I've selected 4 designs for a little special this weekend. There you go, Kick. First off, we have the real Marxism design. This is my favorite design to wear. I love wearing it. I'm literally wearing it right now in the black. This is a, oh, no, that's not it. Come on. Oh, it didn't even open it. What the heck is wrong? Let's just go here. There we go. This is my real Marxism design. It's Karl Marx on a mountain of skulls. This is super fun to wear into places like Whole Foods that are really bougie and really leftist because they get all excited when they see Marxism on your shirt, and then they get close and they realize that Marx is standing on a mountain of skulls and their whole face just drops and they get mad at you and they stomp away because they're pissed off. This has happened to me so many times in Whole Foods. It's so delicious when it happens. I love it. We've got this in the classic black and in red. It looks sick in both. That is the first design you can get for 25% off in the Unwoke Art Store this weekend only. I literally already did. It's also in the description below. There you go. Literally 2 chats above you, bro. We also have the classic Socialists Are Gay design. This comes in a whole bunch of different colors. This is a propaganda poster that looks kind of gay, that was inspired by Maoist propaganda, except it's kind of gay. And I love this shirt because you literally don't know what side it's on. It really could be on either side. So this one I just get a kick out of. That's the another design that's for on sale this weekend. And then we've got the classic, the iconic Socialists Always Lie, the original design, including in white, which I actually think looks pretty rad. That is on sale. And then the brand new version of Socialists Always Lie that I've actually already sold a bunch of these. And there you go. You can see all the different colors in lighter colors as well. And so those are the designs that are going to be on sale this weekend. Now, if you want to see all the stuff that's on sale, just head over to the homepage and you can see it all. We got t-shirts, we've got hoodies, we've got sweatshirts, we've got mugs, couple bags, couple tumblers. All of that is going to be 25% off this weekend only. This is only through Sunday, and that is in celebration of our socialism weekend. And so you can get those goodies in the Unwoke Art Store if you feel so inclined. Also, ooh, they're starting the live stream. But I'm just we still got a couple minutes, so I'm just gonna like go through a couple other things. Socialism bingo is back. Socialism bingo is back. Hang on. Socialism bingo. I know you guys have been asking me to bring bingo back for a while now. Let me just get the link in there. There you go. And I'm gonna pin this to the top of the chat on YouTube. I'm gonna pin this to the top of the chat on Rumble. And I think I can do it on Kick too, can I? Can I do this on Kick? I just barely started figuring out how to use Kick. I don't know if anyone's ever gonna end up watching this or whatever. Pin message. I can. There we go. So socialism bingo is back just for socialism weekend. And we've got a new red card. There you go. How this works is you generate your bingo card. You get a free square in the middle. And then we're going for lines or we're going for corners. And this weekend, if you wanna use the same bingo card for the whole weekend, we could conceivably get a blackout bingo. So when you get bingo, you just yell bingo in the chat. You don't win anything, but you're gonna get a hearty round of congratulations, and people have been demanding that I bring back socialism bingo. I even updated the words just to make it a little bit more, you know, I originally did socialism bingo when we first started learning about socialism. We know so much more now. We know so many more words. And so I even updated the words just for this weekend, and you can find that pinned to the top of the chat. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? See, they're playing music on this. They're playing music on their stream. Yeah, I'm just gonna do that. Actually, no, you know what I can do? You know what I can do? Michael just joined Substack! Yay! Thank you, Michael! Thank you! Awesome, awesome, awesome. I can add one more to the goal. Sweet. Guys, if you join my Substack, let me know in the chat and I will update the goal. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go look manually because I can't just like automatically do this stuff. All right, let me mute the audio there and then I can turn it up here so that I can still hear it because I don't wanna get copyright thing. Did you subscribe? Did you join as a supporter, or did you just subscribe? Like, and it's cool. If you only subscribe for free updates, that's cool. You just barely learned about my Substack, but let me know specifically if you joined as a supporter because that's what we're looking for. My mic is sounding weird. Is my mic sounding weird for anyone else? You joined as a paying member? Alright, awesome, thank you! Is my mic sounding weird for anyone else? Yes, they are requiring masks. Okay, hang on, hang on, hang on. Let me change my oh, hang on. I bet I know what's happening. Why is my mic sounding weird? It shouldn't be sounding weird. Alright, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna turn off my mic and turn it back on. Hang on, stand by. Test, 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 test. How does that sound? Test, test, test. Test, test, test. It sounds fine to me. It sounds good now? Okay, cool. See, so turn it off, turn it back on. That's all that's what's required. Okay, Joe says it's still weird. Okay, I need a straight answer. No, I don't need hang on, don't say I think we can work with this. Like, did it get better? It sounds literally fine on my end, guys. So if there is a problem, then I need people to be very specific about what the problem is. It's not better. Okay. I need a fucking okay. Um, is that better? Okay. So it's not helpful when things don't get better, but people tell me it's better. That's better? Test, 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 test. Okay. I know what happened. I know what happened. A knob got turned. I turned it back. A knob turned, it turned see, but this is what I'm saying, like, don't just tell me things are better when they're not better. Because if they're like, I can't do anything about it if you guys aren't honest about what it is. Because it sounds fine to me, so alright. We are waiting for them to get started. They're playing music, that's why I have it on mute for you guys. They're all still wearing masks. Masks are really required for the socialism conference. Does anyone want to know why? That's okay, Reagan. No worries. Does anyone want to explain why they're wearing masks? No, it's not to protect their identities. Remember, this is their private conference. This is their private conference. There's no reason for them to protect their identities. They introduce themselves to each other. They exchange information. They're not trying to even in the rooms where they're on. They wear the mask even in the rooms that they're not filming in. So it's a requirement for all of them. Why are they wearing masks? Does anyone know? Yup, exactly. Collective care, community care, community care, community care. What does that mean, guys? Collective care. What does that mean for people who might be new? What does that mean? Collective care. They're collectively caring for each other. Yup, because the commies believe that COVID is still rampant and it is their duty as part of the collective. That is true. COVID still exists. It is about solidarity. True. What does community care mean, though, guys? To show they care about the collective? You guys still aren't being specific about this. COVID is rampant and social responsibility mandates you wear it. Yes, but why? Why? Well, that's true, but that's not the correct answer. It shows they care for one another and it shows solidarity. But why? I know you guys know more specific answers than this. I know for a fact there are people here who know more specific answers than this. They think that it's their responsibility to protect others from COVID, but why? Community care means non-privatized healthcare. Yep, that's true, but why? To put the needs of the community ahead of your own comfort, but why? Has nothing to do with minimize. Oh, I guess it does tangentially, but that's just not the right answer. But why? Not the correct answer. Why is the care of the collective the responsibility of all? Everyone must keep each other safe, but why? I'm getting really pissed that I'm not seeing a correct answer. I'm going to be very, very blunt. I'm getting really, really, really pissed that I'm not seeing a correct answer. This is about as close to a correct answer that we've gotten. But even still, that's not entirely the answer that I'm looking for. I am not safe until everyone is safe. Okay. Why? You guys can't answer these questions. You can't teach people. I'm not just being mean. If you cannot answer these questions, you cannot teach people. What does that mean? Don't just throw out buzzwords and expect to get credit. Aha. Well, that's actually a really good answer. Yup. What does that mean? Here we are. Now we're going down the road, aren't we? Because capitalism puts us in a position of everyone not having access to healthcare. I need more though. Give me more. Don't just say things you've said already. Capitalism restricts access to care that they can receive, and if you get rid of it, everyone can receive equal care. Well, that doesn't explain why they're wearing masks, though. Capitalism doesn't support collective health care. Capitalism supports families providing care. Okay, yeah, sure, but nope, wrong. Nope. I'm not giving you guys any hints. There are more than enough of you in this chat who know the answer to this question. Capitalism privatizes healthcare and tailors it to into the individual. That's true, but what does that have to do with math? It's a token of solidarity and unity to wear a mask even in open spaces. But why? Is the question why confusing to anyone? I'm not giving you guys any hints. I'm really not. You all know this. Checking in on the other platforms. No one's got any answers over there either. That's okay. Yes, wearing a mask is engaging in collective care, but why? What does that mean? Alex, thank you for being a member of the channel. Side note, your audio has been going in and out during the quiz. Okay, I can't. Tinny is the word I would use, but just a bit ago it was getting worse until suddenly it became back. Loose wires. Okay. The audio literally sounds fine to me, so there's nothing that I can do about this right now. I'm very, very sorry. There's nothing I can do about this right now because it literally sounds fine to me. Maria, thank you. Dunce, yes, I think everyone owes me a $5 super chat as a dunce penalty. I like this idea. If you guys, this is actually a really great idea. If you guys do not know an answer to a question that you damn well should effing know, you all owe me $5. Yeah, I don't know what any of that means, so I can't. Okay, I can't troubleshoot this right now. It literally sounds fine to me. I don't know what to tell you guys. Because as a collective, they are taking action to ensure each in the collective's health and well-being. I mean, that's close. The people who have good health care are the capitalisms and the work. Okay, that's not that. I mean, it's you know, it doesn't explain why though. Yeah, you might be new, but there are a lot of people here who are not new, and I don't feel like giving them a hint right now. So thank you, Rottweiler. I appreciate it. Hey up! Oh wait, did I get another super chat too? Hang on. Did I get a super chat that I missed? I have more in super chat here than bot. Thank you, bot. Thank you. Not cool. Honor system. Okay. What is where do people get healthcare from under capitalism? Where do people get healthcare from under capitalism? What is the provider of their healthcare under capitalism? Hey, thanks, Milo. I appreciate it. They're playing a song that says "Free, free Palestine, free, free Palestine, free, free Palestine, free, free Palestine." Okay. Nope, nope, not private companies. No. Yes! Gloria. Gloria is queen for the night. Not perpetual queen, but queen for the night. Because that was a fucking struggle. Under capitalism, people have health care have access to healthcare based on the resources of the privatized nuclear family. Because yes, you might get healthcare through your employer, and that is through a private form of insurance, but ultimately you have access to the healthcare that the nuclear family that you are in has resources for. That is where care is delivered under capitalism, through the nuclear family. The left wants to get rid of the nuclear family. They don't believe that care should be provided just on the basis of biology. They don't believe that biological kinship is how that should work, okay? And so when we're talking about collective care, community care, solidarity, they are very literally saying that everyone is the family of everyone else. We are all responsible for providing care for each other. That's what it means to be a comrade. That's what it means to be part of the collective. That's what it means to be in solidarity. So it's that nuclear family piece that's really, really important. You guys may not think this is a big deal, but that's one of the reasons they want to abolish the nuclear family. That is the core argument that Sophie Lewis makes about abolishing the nuclear family, is that the nuclear family provides a privatized form in which healthcare is delivered, and you will only ever have access to the healthcare that the family can provide you, whether you are young or whether you are old, because most senior citizens get care from their family. Obviously, children get care from their family. They don't want that to exist either. So this concept of abolishing the nuclear family, it is directly related to healthcare, to why they want universal healthcare, and to why they are all still wearing masks in 2024, because they believe it is part of their responsibility as a comrade, as someone who's in solidarity. They believe that is their responsibility to provide care for everyone else. Does that make sense to everyone? Kristen says, okay, I'm missing the point tonight. That's all right. We got there. We got there. Benjamin, thank you. Oh, they're going to start chanting. Hang on. Chant.
will be free.
Thanks, Nick. Hey, thanks, Benjamin. I'm going to get a beer. Anyone else need a beer? I'm going to get a beer. Hang on. How do they resolve conflicts among themselves? They have procedures for resolving conflicts. They have a book literally this thick. I saw it last year at the Socialism Conference. That's all about resolving conflicts. I'm doing very well. How are you? I wonder if Sophie's sound tonight. Good sound. Probably like 400 or 500. I didn't say masks were the only solidarity symbol. I said that they really still believe COVID is a thing, and that's why they're wearing it. Guys, remember, this is live, so I can't, like, pause it or anything. Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! I wonder if it has that echo cancellation on that's making it crazy. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Does my mic sound better? Viva, viva Palestina! 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 I don't even have the volume up all the way. She is screaming.
In our million, in our billion, we are all Palestinians.
There's Linda Sarsour.
In our millions, in our billion, we are all Palestinians.
We are all Palestinians. Welcome to Socialism Weekend, guys. Yeah!
My name is Sean Larson.
Hi, Sean.
I'm a political education coordinator at Haymarket Books, and I'm on the conference organizing team. On behalf of Haymarket, we want to thank you all for being here and spending the weekend here with us. Last year, this time, none of us imagined we would be almost a year into a genocide in Gaza when we gathered here today. We come together now with grief heavy on our hearts, but we also come together to recommit to the struggle for a free Palestine and a liberated world. The Socialism Conference aims to provide a space to grow as a multifaceted movement by learning from each other, strengthening our organizations, and re-energizing our efforts to build a different society. Political education is only one of many necessary parts that build social movements, but there's no doubt that it is vital for sustaining struggles for a better future. The Socialism Conference is a culmination of a collaborative effort of many people and organizations throughout the year. We in particular want to thank our comrade Sinan Shakte for supporting the conference and for making a gift of this beautiful Palestinian flag that just arrived today from Palestine.
Wow.
Over 90 organizations from a broad cross-section of the left came together to make this gathering
90
possible.
organizations.
As you join
90.
discussions and debates this weekend, we ask that everyone
Can
help us
someone
to
in the chat
foster a
please
welcoming
explain this to
and
Wolfgang?
respectful culture
There is a reason
where
for this,
each
Wolfgang.
of
They'll
us
be able to
knows
tell you.
that we have each other's backs. The world we are fighting for will take all of us, and we want this space to reflect that. There are a few steps we have taken toward that end that I want to highlight. If you need ASL or Spanish interpretation, we have interpreters
Welcome.
here. Please see us at the registration table.
I know, right? It's
As
pretty
you've
great.
noticed,
I know.
we
Thanks,
once
third
again
guy.
have a mask mandate. We wanted to take a moment at the start of the conference to explain this. We know that in our society,
Thanks, both of us.
we have each been left to make our own individual choices and decisions about how to navigate this pandemic. At a time when many of us are rarely, if ever, required to wear a mask, our policies may cause surprise or even provoke questions from some attendees. Nonetheless, COVID remains pervasive. Conference attendees travel to Chicago from all over the world, and our priorities remain the same as they were the last 2 years. We aim to make the Socialism Conference accessible to anyone looking to share organizing lessons, learn from radical history, and build community, and to the maximum extent possible to ensure that no one leaves the conference having contracted COVID or any other illness and suffer the resulting health and economic consequences.
See, they really do believe this. I'm not just making this up.
Even and especially if you are not someone who typically opts to wear a mask, we thank you for respecting our policy and helping us to enact a compassionate and collective approach to holding a large-scale gathering during an ongoing health crisis. Finally, as part of our community safety approach to the conference, badge checkers are assigned to each conference session. We rely on responsible comrades to fill the role and appreciate their help with making the conference a safe and successful event. If you are asked for your badge while at the door, it may be a bit jarring, and we totally understand that. But please know that our badge checkers are integrated into our larger community safety plans, which is necessary for holding a large left-wing conference without relying on carceral means.
Police. That's what they mean, police. Guards.
Once again, thank you all for making the journey here, whether from elsewhere in Chicago or from across the world. We hope that you make this part of your annual plans and join us next year for Socialism 2025, which will be held from July 3rd through the 6th.
Wow. No, they're lying. No, they're lying. No, they're lying.
With that, I want to introduce Anthony Tamez from the Chi Nations Youth Council for our land
over the 4th
acknowledgement.
of July. Are you shitting me? Did they actually do that, or is that the 4th of July? They scheduled it over Independence Day?
I guess
Bujuani Iskadeni Indigenous Cause Iskagunan Junjaba Meknadunam. Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Tamez. I'm Key First Nations, Lakota, and Black, and I am a member of the Chi Nations Youth Council, Native American Youth Council here in the city of Chicago. With a mission to create safe space for Native youth through arts, activism, and education. A little bit about myself, too. I'm also an elected official for the city of Chicago, so I oversee our police department when it comes
for the
to
city
all aspects
of
of
Chicago.
accountability and transparency, which makes me the only sitting Native American elected official in the state of Illinois and the youngest Native American elected official in the entire nation.
Woo! Elected official. Socialism Conference.
And like they said, Chi Nations will be delivering a land acknowledgement.
Land blessing!
This is an Indigenous protocol performed on Indigenous lands across the globe. And it is an absolute honor to welcome you all to my beautiful city, to my ancestral homelands, a city that I was elected to represent, and a city that I was born and raised in. So I hope you all have a fun and a safe time here learning. Illinois sits upon the ancestral homeland to the Anishinaabe, Nisui, Niskodowin, or Council of Three Fires, Ojibwe, Odawa, and the Potawatomi, along with dozens of tribes who have cultivated and molded the land to sustainably suit their needs since time immemorial. An acknowledgement of the land is an indigenous protocol performed on indigenous lands across the globe. Illinois was and is a site of trade,
I tried to
travel,
get them
and
to.
healing for indigenous peoples.
And they're like, we don't want you. I was like, all right.
And it's acknowledged and given gratitude the remarkable resilience of the indigenous peoples and American Indian community that continue to practice their tribal and intertribal cultures while flourishing in our metropolis and continue to enhance our great city's beauty. And with that, I think that we Chinesians would also like to acknowledge, right, land acknowledgements must continue to go further than they already do and make sure that they aren't performative, right? So we like to tell people that treaties go both ways. Native people, indigenous people, American Indians have upheld their part of the treaties. Now it is upon you all to uphold your current government's treaty to Native people, to uphold our sovereignty, and to uphold our inherent right to live as indigenous people on this land. Miigwech, thank you.
Land blessings don't go far enough. Only at the Socialism Conference.
Thank you, Anthony. Now I'd like to bring up our moderator for the evening, Sumaya Awad.
Woo!
Sumaya Awad is a Palestinian writer and socialist organizer. She is also the director of strategy of the Adala Justice Project and co-editor of Palestine, A Socialist Introduction.
Palestine, a socialist introduction.
Thank you.
Wow.
So you are all here to hear from these panelists. So I'm just doing a very brief introduction to this panel. As people have already said, we're here after nearly a year of this total evisceration, destruction, genocide that is unfolding in Gaza by the Israeli state. And as we sit here tonight and all weekend, we really hear the hollow echoes of never again, right? That have lost all meaning. As Palestinians in Gaza are being murdered, men, women, and
Their
children,
sound is so good this
200,000,
time.
likely the number is
Jesus,
higher,
this is
and of course,
loud.
millions and millions more impacted for generations to come. And our government has the power to stop this, and they aren't.
No, they're
And that is
they're legal.
another
Yeah,
reason that
they're-
we're here
well,
today, and that we have this
most of
panel,
them are, I would think.
and that you are all here,
Yeah, it's like the
and that
best
you're here
socialism
tomorrow
ever.
and Sunday, and that you're leaving here with a goal of what you do next. We know that there has been a massive shift in the United States around Palestine. We have seen poll after poll show that the majority of Americans support an arms embargo. Majority of Americans don't want to support Israel, are critical of Israel. And yet we haven't seen that translate into the mass action we need. And that despite this massive shift, we grapple with, I certainly grapple with, the fact that this shift came at the expense of how many lives lost, how many people murdered, who paid the price for these people to shift. And it's not to say that this shift is not tremendous and incredible and good. It is all of those things, but we must also grapple with the fact that it is lives being lost on the daily, and that it is all by design, and that it all can be stopped.
I like how the white
basically
sign
a
language
moment.
interpreter is Muslim.
And I say all of this not
I feel
because
like I
we
remember
need
her
to
from last year.
pity
She wasn't Muslim last year. She's Muslim
Palestinians, quite the
now.
opposite, nor that we must grieve more. Grief is necessary, but that's not the answer. I say it all because as we're here tonight listening to these incredible, brilliant panelists, and as we go through the sessions tomorrow and Sunday and onward, we have to keep asking ourselves, you have to ask yourself, what am I doing with this knowledge? What am I doing with this education? How is it translating into action? How is it translating
See,
into
'cause it's
action
all
that does
about
not preach
doing
to the
stuff for
choir,
them. It's not just about
but
talking.
preaches
it's
to
about
those who are
doing.
not yet where we need them to be? And you have to have an answer to that question. So keep asking yourself, because a year from now,
No, Shadowland,
July,
the
apparently,
terrorists in the Middle
when
East
you're
are the
back
Jews.
here,
Let's just be honest. The terrorists in the Middle, the Shadowland
have
over
to
on
have
Rumble
an
is saying the
answer.
terrorists in the Middle East are
Don't
socialists.
find yourself just
no.
asking
The
again the
terrorists in the
same
Middle East are
question.
Jews. Sorry.
Be ready to
Not
answer.
sorry.
What have I done in the
Like,
last year?
Come on. Just be honest
So
here.
ask yourself that question. And before I turn to our first speaker and introduce them, I want to read a brief quote from Hiba Abu Nada, who's a Palestinian writer and poet who was killed along with her family on October 20th in Gaza. And she wrote this a few days before she was killed. She was
They don't
32 years
consider it
old.
oppression. They consider it
We are
consider it
above
liberation.
building a second city. Doctors without patience or blood, professors without overcrowding and yelling at students, new families without pain or sadness, journalists photographing paradise, and poets writing about eternal love. All of them from Gaza. All of them.
Yep. True.
In heaven. A new Gaza.
There's one country committing a
Unbesieged,
Holocaust right
is
now.
coming into being. And that's the Gaza we're fighting for.
Here, I'll turn my
Not
mic
above
up.
in the heavens, but here. And that's why we're all here
How's
today.
that? Is that better?
And with that, I'd like to turn to our first
Their sound is
speaker,
really loud. I'm not used to this.
Abdelrazak Takriti, who's an associate professor of history and Arab American Educational Foundation chair in Arab Studies at Rice University. He's also the co-author with Karma Nabulsi of the Palestinian Revolution Digital Humanities Resource, Learn Palestine, and the co-creator with Daniel Denver of the Dig
How is my
Podcast's
sound? Can
Thawra
people let me know?
miniseries on
How is
modern
my sound?
Arab
How is my
radicalism.
sound compared to them?
Abdelrazak.
Please be specific in your answer. Here, I can go into the audio settings, I guess. Hang on.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I was just talking with Linda,
good,
and we were
okay.
saying that
Okay,
there's very
cool.
little
Thank
left to say after a full year almost of genocide, daily genocide.
Yasser Arafat is not currently committing the
after
genocide in
years and
Gaza.
years and
Shadowland.
years of incremental genocide preceding it in Gaza, after a century of colonialism, of
Wait,
a
is he
very
Jewish?
violent kind of settler colonialism that has been
Settler colonialism?
ravaging Palestine. There are commonalities that are very important to emphasize to what's going on in Palestine today
Well, it
and
seems
what
as though others
was
disagree with
happening
you, so
here
maybe it's
in
your
this
speakers.
land and elsewhere in the colonized world.
Oh, you're a Middle
before
Eastern Studies
and
major?
after
Okay, so then you know who's committing the
colonization.
genocide in Gaza. Please pay attention and learn.
In fact,
go.
The land acknowledgement we heard today is something that we should be very attuned to. It's not just a symbolic gesture. It tells us a lot about what colonialism is, what it seeks to achieve,
Am I
and obviously
louder than the video? Yes or
what
no?
it does to the indigenous peoples that it affects. The colonialists were aware of that in Palestine. They could not have been not aware of that because Palestine was the latest example of European settler
Hey, Shadowland, you're taking a
colonialism.
time out, bro.
That was the last
Come
example,
back and keep
in
being
fact,
uppity. I'll ban you.
of European settler colonialism of
Okay.
the classic kind. The mentor,
Am I louder than the
Likud
video?
is-
Yes or no?
the person who
Test,
Netanyahu's
test.
father had served as personal secretary to, was a man called Vladimir Jabotinsky. He came from modern-day Ukraine. He was very clear about the fact that what was taking place.
Am I
is a
louder than the video?
colonization
Yes or no?
project,
That
and
is the
it was
question
gonna
that I need
produce
answered. Not your good
the
code. Am I
classic
louder than the video?
results
Yes or no?
of a colonization
Because I'm
project,
significantly louder on my end.
including native resistance. He wrote a pamphlet 100 years ago
Thank you.
called The Iron Wall. And that pamphlet is very important for understanding what's happening now and the strategies of the genociders, as well as the powers backing them here in the United States. He told his Zionist audience in 1923, and I'm quoting him here, "My readers have a general idea of the history of colonization in other countries. I suggest that they consider all the precedents with which they are acquainted and see whether there is one solitary instance of any colonization being carried out with the consent of the native population. There is no such precedent. The native population, civilized or uncivilized, I'm using his language here obviously, have always stubbornly resisted the colonists, irrespective of whether they were civilized or savage. And it made no difference whatever whether the colonists behaved decently or not. And here he mentions the colonization of the Americas. He talks about Cortez and Pizarro and so on and so forth, until he comes back to Palestine. And he insists on the final conclusion, which he says in very clear terms. He tells his Zionist audience that there is no possibility of an agreement, a voluntary agreement, to be made with the Palestinian population. The Palestinian Arabs, as far as he was concerned, have to be forced into submission to the Zionist program. And that for him, that for him means that there's a need to construct what he called an iron wall. And that's not just the literal wall that we see now in Palestine, this horrendous structure that divides entire towns and villages and ruins people's lives. It's also a metaphorical wall, of course, a wall against which Palestinians are expected to fail in their resistance. They're expected to bang their heads against it until they give up. And I'm quoting Jabotinsky again. He says, we cannot offer any adequate compensation
I would say
to the Palestinian Arabs in return for Palestine.
It's colonization
and therefore there is no likelihood of any voluntary agreement being reached.
Basically, yeah, that's basically right.
So that all those who regard such an agreement as a condition sine qua non for Zionism may as well say none and withdraw from Zionism. Zionist colonization must either stop or else proceed regardless of the native population. You know, we have a lot of pieces now denying that Zionism
There's no
is
captions, this is live.
We have these terrible publications like The Atlantic, a bankrupt magazine that's not worth toilet paper, okay? Denying settler colonialism. But the settler colonists were very, very clear about what Zionism is. It is a colonization project. And now this genocide is the latest phase of that colonization project. 70 years, it took 70 years after the authoring of this document for the native population to come and say, okay, we'll accept some aspect of this Zionist program. It came out of despair. Our people in 1993 were in a very difficult geopolitical position. They were isolated as a result of American intervention in this region. America took out all the states surrounding Palestine, made sure that they separated them from the Palestinian people, invaded and conquered the states that did not wish to go along with the program, and isolated our people and created an atmosphere of fear that led the leadership to sign a terrible agreement called Oslo. Al-Aqsa flood happened on the 30th anniversary of that agreement. In that agreement, the leadership of the native population agreed essentially to relinquish 78% of our land, our precious land, the land that our ancestors had lived in for millennia, the land in which we had exercised our sovereignty for centuries.
Not Ashkenazi Jews, Israel.
And yet, Jabotinsky's descendants and followers didn't even accept that. They want to go further. It's not enough for them. Because Zionism, like other forms of settler colonialism, is hungry. It wants more and more. It has a voracious appetite. It wants to eat up people, land, resources. It wants to dominate. Its logic is constant expansion. It got the most incredible offer ever given by an indigenous people to accept the colonial power, and yet it said no. Oslo was supposed to result in a Palestinian state over parts of the remaining 22%. They didn't even want to do that. And then our people had to go through another phase of struggle. They had unleashed multiple revolutions before. My work happens to be on these revolutions. But now they had to carry out new tactics, find new ways of dealing with this impasse. They tried boycott. They tried nonviolent resistance. They tried non-cooperation. They exemplified courage during the first Intifada and the years after. They pursued every strategy, tactic possible on the face of this earth. And I say this because there's a lot of people that lecture Palestinians on strategies and tactics, including in the left. So the first thing that needs to be emphasized in this room is, you know what? Palestinians have been there and done that a million times. Every tactic, every strategy. You have nothing to teach us, not because you're not smart, not because you don't have experiences, but because we've been in struggle for 100 years and we've been in contact with every third worldist movement out there throughout that period. We were in contact with the great Gandhi in 1924 when he hosted the Palestinian delegation. We were in contact with every great leader. We hosted Malcolm X. We hosted Che Guevara in Gaza. We've hosted every major national liberation struggle. We are the people that have produced Hassan Kanafani and people you've never heard of like May Sayegh, and people you might have heard of like Layla Khalid. Each one did their own types of struggle. They've tried every form of struggle out there. The left has to stand with Palestine regardless of what tactics, what strategies are followed by the Palestinian people.
The left has to stand with Palestine regardless of the tactics, because they're going against Israel, the settler colonizers. Settler colonizer means capitalist.
The left
oppressor,
also
bourgeois, private property
has
owner.
to acknowledge its own history of complicity in this project. Until the launch of the Palestinian revolutionary phase post-1967, for the most part, the Western left had supported Zionism in one form or another. There were exceptions, but unfortunately, there was a lot of complicity. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done to reverse that complicity. When I started my own organizing I'm sorry to say this, I'm going to date myself, about 25 years ago plus, okay? In those days, the left was still not there. In a conference like this, you would have had debates and people questioning. It took a lot of work, including on the part of people here in this distinguished panel, to create a difference and make a change. So now, we're saying this not to do blame, but to say that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, including outside the left. And this means that every socialist out there has to think of this as a long-term commitment. because anti-colonialism does not work on the short run.
Anti-colonialism means
It's a
anti-capitalism.
long-term commitment.
Every time you hear colonialism, think capitalism. Anti-colonialism, anti-capitalism.
Another point that needs to be emphasized relates to Palestinian leadership. I hear a lot of debates now about Hamas this, Hamas that, Fatah this, Fatah that. That is not the business of solidarity. And I say it seriously, not because there aren't debates to be had about leadership. We can have those debates, and we do. The reality is that you're in solidarity with a cause, with the people, regardless of what ideological banners it chooses to pursue its anti-colonial practice
Because
under.
it's an
The
anti-capitalist
reality
solidarity.
is it is facing a
That's what that
structure of
means.
colonialism. It's a horrific structure. And trust me, in the same way that we've used every strategy and tactic out there, we've also used every ideology in this whole world. Every ideology. From Ottoman notable politics in the early 20th century to different forms of talking about interfaith stuff through the Muslim Christian associations of Palestine, to working with, under leftist banners and Marxism, Leninism, through using local forms of patriotism, pan-Arabism, third worldism, Maoism, the list goes on and on. And yes, now we have Islamic parties since the 1980s and in the aftermath of the Iranian Revolution and the Afghanistan war and everything that happened since then. But the one thing that has not changed is that we are an oppressed people fighting for freedom.
That's right.
Oppressed by capitalism. Israel, the settler colonist, means capitalist
So
private
enough with
property
the
owners,
sophistry.
oppressors.
Including on the part of Palestinians that engage in this sophistry abroad. I'm sorry to say this. Let us stop this nonsense. There's a genocide going on. We stand with the people. We will expose the genocide. Our role in the United States is to mobilize, organize tirelessly until freedom is achieved for Palestine on the pathway for achieving freedom for everyone. Thank you very much.
Yep. We talked about that earlier, Grandpa Tim. That's true. They do enforce it too.
Thank you, Abdulrazak. Our next speaker is Rabbi Brant Rosen, who serves as the Tzedek Chicago, a synagogue he helped found in 2015. A longtime Palestinian solidarity activist and organizer, Brant is the co-founder of the Jewish Voice for Peace Rabbinical Council and the Jewish Fast for Gaza.
None of them are without masks. Do you see any of them without masks except for the sign language interpreter and the person speaking?
The book Wrestling in the Daylight.
That's it. You're allowed to take off your mask when you're interpreting sign language
Brant is also
or
a
speaking.
prolific poet.
That's it.
And liturgist, whose prayers and poems can be found on his blog, Yadid Nefesh. As you can tell, I did not read this before. And his chapbook, Songs After the Revolution, New Jewish. I'm not going to say the word again because I'm going to butcher it. Brant.
Thank you. In terms of all you need to know about me vis-a-vis my presence on this amazing panel is that I'm part of the movement for Palestine solidarity and Palestinian liberation. My congregation, Tzedek Chicago, which is almost 10 years old now, is founded on very clear core values of justice and solidarity and anti-Zionism. We are an avowedly anti-Zionist congregation.
An anti-Zionist congregation. You have to be anti-Zionist.
I'm also, as was mentioned, the co-founder of the Jewish Voice for Peace Rabbinical Council, along with Rabbi Alyssa Wise, who's right here in the third row. So I'm here As a rabbi of a local anti-Zionist congregation, I'm here as a member of Jewish Voice for Peace and part of this movement. But I think my remarks aren't meant to be officially representing any of these groups, but rather I just feel very, very honored to be asked to be part of this conversation this evening. And would like to offer a few thoughts as a Jewish person.
That's conservative propaganda.
Jewish positionality.
They don't care about Jewish. They don't care about Islamic.
Movement.
They care about defeating the settler colonists that are Israel.
Non-Palestinian on this panel.
It's not about Islamic anything. That's
I see
guys,
my place
hating
in this
Muslims
movement
is
really as being accountable to Palestinians.
Hang on.
But I don't.
Let me explain something. I'm going to turn down the volume to explain something. Hating Muslims is conservative propaganda to keep people on the side of Israel. Muslims, for the most part, are not actually the enemy. The conservatives want you to hate Muslims. They want you to hate Islam because that keeps you on the side of Israel, and Israel is the one funding them. So these people do not care about replacing Israel with an Islamic government. That's conservative bullshit. They care about this because they perceive Israel to be the settler colonists that stole Palestinian land, and they are trying to decolonize Palestine, that is, remove the oppressive force of capitalism. The oppressive force of capitalism in this case are the Israelis, has nothing to do with them being Jewish, has to do with the fact that they took Palestinian land, which was indigenous, and they privatized it as their own. That is the issue at play. They believe that Israel is representative of capitalism. That is the issue at play.
When he talked about Vladimir Jabotinsky, the Zionist ideologue from Eastern Europe and the author of the Iron Wall, because Jabotinsky, who you heard about and you learned a little bit about, he's often positioned as part of many streams of Zionism, but in fact, what Jabotinsky was doing was he was saying the quiet part out loud. He was saying the things as that Zionism is ultimately predicated on, but most Zionists were not willing or able.
Probably
or
not. They just want them to leave the land.
But he was. He was
no
unabashed.
one has said that. That's conservative bullshit
cleansing.
propaganda.
He was unabashed about settler colonialism. He saw the Palestinian population as a problem, and that is.
They aren't calling for the genocide of Israel. No one's calling for the genocide of Israel.
And when I use the term Zionism, I just wanted to.
If you think they are calling for the genocide of Israel, you are again falling for bullshit conservative propaganda. That's not real. No one has called for the genocide of the Israelis. No one has called for the genocide of Jews. That is what conservative propaganda use to keep you on the side of Israel.
Statements for us when we were deliberating was a statement, a very famous quote by Angela Davis, who said that in a racist society, it's not enough to be non-racist. You have to be anti-racist.
That means anti-capitalist.
And so when I use the term Zionism, what I'm referring to, just to make no mistake, it is an ideology and a movement that seeks to create a Jewish majority nation state in historic Palestine. That is, I think, as good, I believe, a definition of Zionism as you will find. And it is, as Abdul said, a form of settler colonialism. It's also a form of ethnic nationalism. It seeks to create a state based on the identity of one particular group of people. And if you are not part of that group, then you are a problem, ipso facto, just by definition. Mm-hmm. A movement that is seeking to create a Jewish majority nation state will look to those who are not part of that group as a problem to be dealt with. And that was the case before 1948. It was the case during the Nakba in 1948, and it has been the case ever since. And that is the essential injustice at the heart of this ideology and this movement. And it is ongoing. And it is not enough, we believe, to simply say we're not Zionists. That's not us. We don't adhere to that. If you see something that's inherently unjust, right, inherently immoral, then you must commit to dismantling it and transforming it into something else. So
that means silence is violence.
Zionism has, in its origins, was a minority position in the Jewish community. It was one of many different movements and ideologies of Jewish modernity, but it has become the sine qua non, the center of Jewish identity since then. And it's become conflated with Judaism since then. But one of the things I think that we've been seeing since October 7th, actually we've been seeing it prior to October 7th, but accelerating in a very, very dramatic way, is the growth of Jews who are stepping forward as anti-Zionist Jews, who are openly being in solidarity with Palestinians and joining this movement. And it was unmistakable. You could not miss the presence of Jews at demonstrations, at protests, at rallies.
Very true.
Jewish Voice for Peace went through a dramatic increase in membership during that time. There is an organization or an initiative, I guess we would say, Rabbis for Ceasefire, that now has over 350 rabbis. This is something new. This is something very, very significant. And
yeah, for
I
real.
think the fissures that have been building in the Jewish community over this issue have now widened, I believe, into an abyss. It is blown wide open. The Jewish community will never be the same ever again. And I don't want to belabor this point. I think it's for a different panel to talk about the transformation of the Jewish community. That's not what we're here to talk about necessarily. But I think it does bear noting, in as much as I think that the Jewish presence in this movement, the growing Jewish presence in this movement, has a unique role to play, and that is to intervene in the Zionist narrative that Israel stands for all Jews. Israel never stood for all Jews. But in order for Zionism to maintain its sense of legitimacy, it had to claim that. It had to claim that Judaism is Zionism and Zionism is Judaism. So, technically speaking, as part of this coalition, every group is important and every group has a role to play. But I think I've become increasingly aware of how important it is for Jews of conscience, anti-Zionist Jews, to build a new form of Jewish identity to combat this insidious conflation of Judaism and Zionism. And their numbers are increasing. My congregation has doubled in size since early October.
Wow.
I talked to them.
Doubled
I wasn't,
in size.
that was not a brag, that was just a fact. I talk to them all the time. You know, when people join our congregation, we ask them to say a little bit
conservatives going full-on Zionist is pushing so many people to the far left, it's ridiculous. We've seen communist parties, the Revolutionary Communists of America have like tripled in size since last year. This guy's congregation has doubled in size. Everyone who is against what Israel is doing is going to the far left because the conservatives are being so goddamn feckless that they can't stand up for what is right because they are continually sucking the cock of Israel, and we are losing to the far left because of it.
All the time. This is real. I don't believe it's simply anecdotal. I think there is a growing number of members of our community, largely young people, but not only, who just are not buying the Zionist narrative anymore. Either never have, are growing up in a world and saying, I can't accept this, or like myself and many others in this room I know, have gone through an evolution and are coming to grips with the deep moral problems of conflating Judaism and Zionism. I don't want to go into a long tutorial about the ways that Judaism and Zionism are separate. I'll only to say
God damn it.
this, that
Fucked up my
Judaism is
banner.
a centuries-old spiritual peoplehood. Zionism is a political ideology that emerged in the modern period in Europe. It's not uniquely Jewish. There are Christian Zionists, and most of them, as a matter of fact, are. There are more members of Christians United for Israel than there are Jews in the world, and that's just a fact. And it's also not true that being anti-Zionist is being anti-Semitic. And the best way I think, to intervene in this narrative is not simply to engage in didactic arguments about why this is not so, but it's to stand up loud and proud as a Jewish person, as an anti-Zionist Jewish person, and say, this is my Judaism and it's not that.
Not necessarily.
So I want to
Stop
share
making
just
fucking
one
excuses.
example of that, and that is from the student encampment movement from the spring.
Those are socialists. The college protesters are socialists.
You know, my congregation was asked to by Jewish students, specifically at DePaul University, actually, although here in Chicago, they were just about every university had an encampment, to come lead Shabbat services at the encampment, Sabbath services, which we did. And I have to say it was one of the most remarkable spiritual experiences of my life. The first time we did this, there was a Muslim call to worship before that. Everyone was together, gathered around the central spot. We led our service, and after that, there was a local indigenous dance group that put on an indigenous dance performance, and there were many other religious communities that were involved in this gathering. And I'd never seen anything quite like it. It was all completely organic. There were clearly many Jewish students there because they knew all the words to the prayers we were praying. And afterwards, many of them came up to me and thanked us for being there. And some of them said, this is the first time I've felt comfortable being in a Jewish space. And they considered this to be a Jewish space, but a very different kind of one. And really, these encampments were a living intervention in this narrative. And it was also even more than that.
It actually was. It's conservative propaganda that it wasn't. It actually was.
What the world should be. The world that we're fighting for.
Guys, the college protesters had been protesting together for months leading up to the college protests. They've been protesting together since October 7th. And so it wasn't as though the campus protest just sprung up out of nowhere. It was an escalation that happened over the course of months of students who had been working together for months, and actually somewhat before that, because they were organizing on divestment campaigns before that. The divestment campaigns weren't new, but they had been protesting this ever since October 7th. And so if you think and believe the conservative bullshit propaganda that this just sprung up out of nowhere because it was funded by Soros, that's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It had been escalating for months, and your conservative propagandists just didn't tell you the truth.
What the world should look like in real time. I have much more I'd like to say, but I'm coming to my deadline. So I'll just say this. You know, it was said by all of our speakers thus far that we are living in a time of genocide, and you know, we all know this. But for me, it's an important reminder.
You do if you believe that was organic. Muddy, you absolutely do. You're using a Daily Wire logo as your icon, guy. Don't bullshit us. We know what's up. Come on.
And you know, just
don't
coming off of the
lie to
DNC us. And all of just the.
If you want me to stop calling you a conservative propaganda shill, then change your fucking icon, because that's the Daily Wire. That's where you got that. That's the Daily Wire. So don't tell me you don't subscribe to conservative propaganda when it's literally in your fucking icon.
This is not a time. for pleading. Please, may we have one speaker? Just let us have one speaker, and we will submit our statement in advance, and we promise we will play by your rules. We are living in a time of genocide, and years from now, it will be asked of us what we did in this moment. And we have to be able to stand up and say,
That's the Daily Wire. Now stop fucking arguing with me immediately or I'm going to ban you. This is my house, not yours. That's the Daily Wire.
It has not been enough. And we will.
They literally made hats with this, bro. My husband has one. That's the Daily Wire.
But we need to constantly remind ourselves this is a time of genocide and we must act accordingly.
Conservative propaganda show every time.
It's an honor to be with you.
Universally, they end up being the dumbest people in the chat every goddamn time. Every time.
Thank you, Brant. Our next.
Stop arguing with me, or I'm going to ban you.
George.
We already called you out. You're either going to have to cry your tears to yourself, or you're going to be kicked out. I'm not kidding. Stop being disruptive.
The Specimen's Apology and Al-Yawm. They are currently executive director of the award-winning journal Mizna, and their collaborations include co-editing a Palestinian poetry anthology with Noor Hindi, which will be published by Haymarket Books in 2025, and a performance art project titled Eve.
Conservative propagandists every fucking time. Every time.
George.
Universally. Every time.
Thanks to Haymarket for bringing me back to my former home of Chicago. I moved a month ago, so it's really great to be back so soon. I wanna start with just thinking about the title of this panel. Before I read my poem, thinking about failed solidarity.
A poem.
For a bit. Since this is a conversation between leftists, and
it's a conversation between
I think
leftists.
a lot about how, from my position within the literary world, within cultural organizing, and as an editor of, Mizna is one of the only print magazines for Southwest Asian and North African people in this country, and it has been run by fearless Palestinian women for, now we're in our 25th year, honestly. So, and people who've been, publicly pro-BDS and BDS compliant in our material process down
BDS
to
is boycott,
the technology
divestation.
we use to print our journals, these kind of small details and lessons, I think, of seeing the inside of the academy versus the outside of this is what an actual community looks like, literary institutions versus literary community, right? Has shown me a lot of lessons on the gap between these alleged pro-Palestine people and the people who are pro-Palestinian resistance is so wide. When October 7th happened, it is an example of just how illegible we and our existence and our bodies are to the entire Western neoliberal world order.
Neoliberal is a bingo word.
And thinking about these conversations that people in academia are having, being decades behind where Palestinian intellectual society was, right? These are conversations with the most quote unquote literate people in the world, so to speak, that are so incredibly illiterate. And we've been wasting our time, quite frankly.
Means Democrat.
We've been wasting our time with these conversations,
Democrat.
The anti-Zionism doesn't equal anti-Semitism conversation. Decades, like so many Palestinian writers, poets, organizers have burned themselves out having the most illiterate conversations with people like the Poetry Foundation just at our front door, people who are literally a wealthy little country club of we're gonna take our trust fund. And no, seriously though, these people, they can't even take themselves seriously. And what we're witnessing is a united, apathetic front of all the nonprofit industrial complex of the literary sphere saying no, And I was talking to a really good friend, a local poet, Julian Randall, Afro-Dominican queer, amazing writer.
Afro-Dominican and queer.
It baffles me why people think they can just corporatize and avoid speaking to Palestinians when Literally, they're afraid of Zionism.
Correct.
Y'all have been fighting this again.
These are not
As was
Democrats.
said earlier, for
They hate Democrats.
decades. And so maybe people
Neoliberals
would
a
think y'all
slur.
know how to fight Zionism and would like defer to y'all. I don't know. But anyways,
As a reminder, guys, for people who might be new, real communists and socialists hate the Democrats. Kamala Harris is not a communist. Kamala Harris is not a socialist. The real communists and socialists hate her. They use the word neoliberal to refer to Democrats and progressives. They also consider AOC to be a neoliberal. They consider Bernie Sanders to be a neoliberal. So don't believe what you hear in conservative propaganda. These are real communists. These are not fake communists.
poets around the world, many of whom are still living. And I want to kind of, as I transition into my own work, I want to put the words of my good friend Rasha Abdul Hadi into the world, again, of what are we doing to love Palestinians while we are still alive? Because some of these questions are not
They
metaphors for
despise
us.
the Democrats.
Palestine, the metaphor,
They hate
is
Kamala
Palestine, the
Harris.
metaphor, until the moment it isn't. And this is a poem that I'm
You're
going to
learn a
my
lot
next
this
book.
weekend, my friend.
And each of the sections of this long poem begin with an epigraph from someone without
Well, it's a
whom
slur
I couldn't
created
have
for
survived
Democrats
the
and
past several
progressives.
months.
Thank you, MacB.
When the Arab apocalypse comes to America, quote, and here I am.
There is only one
a
kind of
woman alone
capitalism,
at
that's
the
private
threshold
property
of the
ownership.
cold
That's it. There is
season.
no other definition of capitalism.
Let us believe in the impermanence of countries. Let us
The impermanence of
believe
countries.
in the bulldozing of walls. Let us invert the starlit vectors of a name. Let us unname, unarchive, unarchaeologize the origin. Let us sing the singularities of our being. Let us reflect not, singe rot, not err, and break plot. Let us believe in the miracles of the lyric, the flowers unspringtimed, the snowfalls unsilenced. Let us believe in the splitting of bread unbodied, the quenching of wine unblooded. Let us discover the beginning of language in the breakage of seasons. Let us believe in the living of fathers in winter, the returning of mothers in winter. Let us believe in our people who walked on impossible waters. Let us believe in the beginning of the cold season, yes, and let us believe in the hearth of an impossible fall. Let our belief in question, in case, in metaphor, return us in faith to the land. Return our songs to the land. Return our bodies to the land. Return our land to the land. Let this break our hearts unrafted. Let this save our arts uncrafted. Quote,
Yeah.
and we burned the rules of syntax.
Hi,
We
Fluffy
burned
Cow.
the
I made you a
chains
mod
of
on
grammar
Kick.
and converted to the struggle. Rashid Hussein. Genocide remains, if anything, a kind of syntax. Causality is particle. Ontology is parsing. Expert is archaeology. President is transitive. Baby is object. Palestine is subject to. Murder is chiasmus. New York Times is illiteracy. Limbs are punctuation.
True.
Arms are comma. Bullet is maf'ul al-mutlaq. Hospital is conditional. Campus is tense. Stone thrown is maf'ul li-ajlah. Phosphorus is accusative. Night is I am. Dawn is maf'ul fihi. God is contrapuntal. Crucifixion is clarity. Care is idafa. Eve is genitive. River is sea.
Yeah.
Quote,
Socialism is liar.
I grant you refuge in knowing that the dust will clear, and they who fell in love and died together will one day laugh. Haba Abu Nada, Allah yarhamha.
We explained this earlier. You can rewind
The sun
and listen.
can no longer look us in the eye.
This is live, so I can't explain right now.
Refuses the image of a shriveled corpse, of a corpse starved before it was dismembered, of a corpse tangled into a net, dropped into the sea, and called aid, of a corpse unimaginable beneath rubble, of a corpse that became rubble, of a hollowed out people, of a returning to the sea in thirst, in refusal. The sun became an image of everywhere. A red sun staining a bag of flour, a hemorrhage in the shape of a green sun, an abscess, a wound from the eye of a wound of a yellowed sun, a blue-beaten sun, a kingdom of jaundice. In the body's silence waits the sun of stop. I looked the sun in the eyes for 6 months, unwavering. Stop. In the opposite of nature, I found a wilderness of stop. Is green the color of silence, or is green the color of a kind of apocalypse? Stop. I am become Gaza, said the sun, refusing still to look any of us in the eye.
Wow.
If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Rafat el-Arir. And on the day of the so-called ceasefire, when they kidnapped the Ghazan poet, where were you? Or had you already crowned him into martyr? You who only know how to love an artist by mummifying them. When the Arabs love our poets, we turn them into music. When the Arab apocalypse comes to America, its music will be one of phone calls across borders, wondering if this is how our ancestors felt the day they stole Kanafani from us.
The Arab apocalypse? What the fuck
cry
is that?
every time I see this kite in the sky with Rafat's words. That poetry can become a study in better names
It's a little
than
ominous.
monument.
The
How
Arab
much of us
apocalypse
has died
comes
in
to
the assumption
America?
that greatness is the sun a poem arcs towards. A line ending can be a kind of illiteracy. If it can happen in language, it can happen in the body. If it can happen in myth, it was already a kind of history. We tell this to ourselves as we mourn a man we've only known through poems, screens, impossible distance. That exile is just a state of loving the ones we haven't met, as we live the lives we could never live while grieving those very same lives. Have you finally stopped shooting yourself? Solmaz Sharif. I can't bear their springtime. It will be winter, all winter and spring and summer, and still we'll be waiting for another fall. My father died in autumn, and his death was so American it became a Palestinian
I promise
death.
you he doesn't mean the same thing as
It
the
was
conservative
winter all year
propaganda, so
after.
don't get your
Can
hopes
we
up.
imagine 200,000 years of winter? The rubble of it. A year for every
Okay,
unknowable
stop.
death beneath the avalanche. All of them, such Palestinian
not
deaths,
a real
they became
question.
American deaths. On the opposite ends of oceans, we are not one in corpselessness. Empire wants us to think ourselves exceptional in grief. Whiteness wants us to think we are
Whiteness?
unmournable in mass. Is there a door on the other side of winter, or is every season just tunnel? This is the winter that became the winter that never ended. America deserves no redemption of sunshine, only a heat death from which we cannot wake. For all of our sakes, we'll stop this world, Ya Gaza. We'll stop this world because the time for words is already behind us. Long live the Intifada, the sun said,
Worldwide
of students
Socialist Revolution.
carrying a list of slaughtered children the length of a whole nation who can bear this spring. The cameras stupefied into flowers, the sky heavy with inverted starlight. What happened to us in the dark happened to us in another imagination of light, of day, where the cop will crown himself soldier, the soldier will crown himself angel. This empire of backfired falsettos, we tire of heaven. the need of it. The liar in Lyric, they shot a kid in the face today. Stop. The kid was American before he was stopped. They made a red to make a red. Stop. Blood in the water, water in the blood of words, of offices. It's spring, and all the colors have grown new meanings. A pink red, a red, a yellow who wants to be sunspot, a green, a Palestine ungreened of its reds. The sun was an op dressed in yellow, marshal of stop. I drank the sun and my body was all tunnel. Stop. Language of solar detention, the language of spray painting. Fuck the police is the only acceptable negotiation. Stop the poems. The poems have left our words and form instead a tent. Find us there where Palestine is everywhere. Here is another kind of beyonding, and there was red music and green, and the chants were songs and the words a kind of fire. Look, the poem is already beyond us. Look, isn't this new light stunning? Thank you.
Thank you for that festive poem. Very moving. Both stunning and brave, some might say. Stunning and brave.
Thank you, George. That was so powerful, so moving.
So stunning, so brave.
Our next speaker will be equally powerful and moving is Noura Reqat.
Hey, if you keep having questions like this, you can rewind and go look.
Noura is a human rights attorney and professor of Africana Studies and the program of criminal justice at Rutgers University.
Rutgers!
She's the author of Justice for Some, Law on the Question of Palestine. She is co-founding editor of Jadaliya and an editorial board member of the Journal of Palestine Studies. Noura has also produced video documentaries including Gaza in Context and Black Palestine Solidarity. Noura.
I'm collecting keffiyehs to stay warm. But also thank you for the heads up. Next July, I will bring a sweater. So
I can't believe they scheduled it over the 4th of July. That's
it's day
crazy.
329. The situation on the ground in Gaza has only gotten worse. 250,000 Palestinians will likely die due to starvation, famine, and disease to come. In the words of Lara Al-Burno, every day is the worst day and worse than what we've already witnessed. Systematic sexual assault of Palestinian detainees, burning refugees alive in plastic tents that asphyxiated them before their skin melted off. Polio outbreak after 25 years of preventable disease, and now an all-out incursion into the West Bank in what Palestinians have repeatedly warned is an ethnic cleansing project from the river to the sea. This horror is amplified by the fact that it follows 3 ICJ decisions, an ICC request for arrest warrants for Israel's head of state and defense minister, after we thoroughly debunked the most racist, vile lies about atrocities that never happened.
True. Palestine provides rare moments of truth for socialists.
That were repeated last night. Even after Israelis bellow the quiet part out loud, this colonial genocide continues with increasing cruelty
That means
and an
capitalists.
unceasing supply of weapons that you and I pay for.
True.
There are no words left, and certainly less of a need for experts, because this is pretty simple. So I humbly offer 5 lessons that the genocide in Gaza has taught us. So far, and obviously just 5 of the many. First, it has exposed the enduring colonial nature of international law and legal institutions. For nearly 11 months, we have been witnessing a colonial genocide with an emphasis on colonial.
That's
and the inability
true.
of international law and legal institutions
I
to
agree
stop
with
it.
you.
That failure reflects the nature of this genocide
But they're
convention
different problems.
itself, which is legislated in 1948, not because it's the first genocide to take place, but because it's the first to take place within Europe's shores. The exclusion of indigenous, African, and Asian peoples from the scope of harm reflects the developments of the laws of war as a European project that deliberately relegated the non-European
War as a European
explicitly
project?
as a savage other who was denied, excluded from, evacuated from the category of civilian.
War is a European
The final
project.
draft of the Genocide Convention removed colonial violence from its scope and represented a Eurocentric humanity. The inability to stem genocide today illuminates that there is no international law, but instead a law for the European world and a law for everyone else.
I'll explain this when there's a break, Fluffy Cow.
This is why this battle is what Palestinian scholar Nimr Sultani has described as, quote, an
They're
epic
not
legal
saying white
battle
people.
of the
That's
global
your
south
definition.
versus
That's
the
not
global
theirs.
north.
Wrong. That's not what they're saying.
How, with few notable exceptions, states of the global south have intervened at the ICJ to support the Republic of South Africa's petition, while states of the global north have intervened to support Israel's intervention. Note also how Namibia's late president told Germany when it tried to speak that it had no authority to tell anyone what is and what is not a genocide. And though international law has failed to stop this, the international rulings have catalyzed weapons and diplomatic sanctions. Most significant of the accomplishments, if there are any to recount, is that it enabled us to move from discussing the legality of Israel's operations to describe it as wholesale illegitimate. This war is not designed to extract captives or to destroy Hamas, but to depopulate Gaza and to continue the Nakba.
True.
And the return of the Nakba to understand Israel's conduct from the 1948 to the present reflects the success of Palestinians who have redeployed and refashioned international law in the service of emancipatory struggle, even as we face the most extreme expression of Zionist eliminationist policy in generations. Number 2, this is a U.S. genocide against Palestinians. In the first 6 days, the Biden administration sent 6,000 bombs. This week, it sent 50,000 tons
know
of
the
weapons.
definition of
to date,
capitalism, bro.
causing the
Shut the fuck
equivalent
up
of
and
over
listen.
3 atomic bombs dropped on a besieged population, denied safe quarter, and any means necessary for survival. The U.S. has matched this death-making, with the provision of immunity at the UN Security Council, as well as directly sabotaging the ceasefire negotiations. Significantly, the Biden administration is doing this in contravention of its own laws and in contravention of the popular will of its constituents in this so-called democracy. Worse, it's going even further than manufacturing consent to squash dissent. One example alone, time is too little to recount all of them, is a bipartisan vote of 269 to 144 that the House passed to prohibit the State Department from citing the Gaza Ministry of Health statistics on Palestinian casualties. They can tell us with ease how many Hamas militants they have killed, but they can't tell us how many Palestinians have been slaughtered. Despite the US's role in this genocide, broad swaths of Americans insist that there is a difference between what happens over there and what happens over here. Let us be reminded of a direct continuum in the words of Martinican artist and essayist Amos Esser, described as the boomerang effect. What is deployed in colonial geographies manifests within its metropole. And this is most apparent today in U.S. policing and the squashing of
All right, what's the
dissent.
definition of capitalism?
Sociologist Julian
Define
Go
capitalism in the chat
traces
now.
the militarization of U.S. law enforcement not to the Vietnam War, as many have done, but rather to the moment that the U.S. became an imperial power beyond these shores where it was already an imperial power, when it defeated the Spanish in the Spanish-American War in 1898 and became that power over Cuba, over the Dominican Republic, over Guam, Puerto Rico, Haiti, and Nicaragua. This is what catalyzed the transformation of the U.S. law enforcement into a form of state violence that reflected an imperial war machine, not to protect the people, but to hold on to colonial holdings. Today, we see this effect in the deployment of anti-terrorism laws to squash dissent and protesters in Cop City.
All right, very good.
In the censorship of books and the need
you.
to sign permission slips to read authors in the state of Florida. In the authorization of police to brutalize students on their campuses. It may be easy to these broad swaths of American to describe Palestinians as the sacrificial lamb necessary to advance a progressive agenda. But that would be a total misread. We are the canaries in the coal mine and the front line of what is coming for everyone. Letting us die is not making any of you safer.
This is a good speech.
Number 3, universities are an extension of the state's coercive apparatus.
Oh!
We have witnessed universities being the greatest source of harm to students and faculty. Among them
That's an
is our
anarcho-communist
beloved
argument.
Professor Stephen Tamati, who I did not know would be here this evening, who is the beloved husband of our beloved leader, Sandra Tamati, who I did think would be here. In April, on his campus in Washington University, Professor Tamati was punched, body slammed, kicked, and dragged for standing around with his students. The police broke several of his ribs and his hand, and upon arrival to the hospital, the doctor told him he was lucky to be alive. We are so happy you are alive. Bless you. Abundant health to you. What has become clear is that rather than being the site of knowledge production and dissent, the university is an extension of this coercive apparatus. There's many explanations for this. I want to share just one, which is about public funding. Universities have been subject to the worst austerity measures and has made up for this windfall through donations from corporations, most notably weapons manufacturers, which have been receiving more public subsidies than the entirety of the Department of Education. In fact, one company alone in 2020, Lockheed Martin, just one of the 5 that have received these subsidies in a surge after 9/11, received more than the entirety of the DOE. These very companies are keeping universities afloat. At Johns Hopkins, for example, the university received twice as much money from defense contractors over the last 10 years than it's received from tuition. Obviously, they don't care about their students. They are not as profitable. Today, the Pentagon fuels 1/4 of university revenues. The university functions in concert with the military-industrial complex and depends on this alliance. Number 4, Zionism has no moral legs to stand on.
I have more to say about
Many
that.
of you are like, wait a minute, that's a
But we're gonna
lesson?
wait.
Yes. Yes, for many it is. Though we have failed to stop a genocide, we have made plain the moral bankruptcy of Zionism, though really, Israel and Israeli society should take the credit for that. Its state and society have told us that for them to feel safe, they must depopulate the Gaza Strip to finish the job. Israeli society is publicly calling for more rape, for more killing. They are mocking Palestinians who are starving and being shredded into pieces. Its soldiers are flexing on killing babies, blowing up mosques as wedding announcements, and wearing the lingerie of women as an expression of their masculinity. American Zionist settlers are leaving Hyde Park and Park Slope to settle Palestinians' land and then demand that Palestinians be killed because of how dangerous it is, while lamenting that colonialism gets a bad rap. End quote.
Colonialism means capitalism.
Zionism has historically had significant moral sway amongst Americans, including folks that we deeply admire with their contradictions, like W.E.B. Du Bois, who saw in Zionism a model for liberation of oppressed people. Today, folks, however, are not lining up to defend Zionism. To the contrary, most of them are quiet because they're afraid of punishment, because they're afraid of being attacked, because they're afraid of being
we
doxxed,
all heard it. We'll talk
because
about it
they're
later.
afraid of harassment, because they're afraid of losing their gainful employment. Zionism is so weak today that it can only be maintained through coercive force and the threat of its use.
Hey, Drew!
AIPAC.
Drew! AIPAC call out! AIPAC call out! AIPAC call out!
AIPAC, which used to operate quietly, has to loudly wield its punitive stick.
I love her.
It has poured no less than $100 million into the U.S. election cycle. Notably, it spent $8.4 million to unseat Cori Bush. In that campaign, took
Joe
credit
Marks.
by saying that
Appreciate
pro-Israel is good policy and good politics for both parties. But AIPAC, in all of its ads, did not mention Israel once. There was nothing to gain from that line of attack. Their aggressiveness is an indication of their weakness. Number 5, finally. On racism and power. The invisibility and the power of Palestinians. Racism is doing tremendous work in this moment to prime audiences for mass slaughter of Palestinians and to invisibilize our power at the same time.
See?
In line with Islamophobic and historic anti-Semitic tropes, classic tropes, I should say, Palestinians have been racialized as outsiders who cannot integrate into Western society, but are instead planning to impose creeping Sharia. They are outside of modernity. They are too religious and intrinsically violent. They are a threat to others and even to themselves because of colonial stereotypes about brown men being dangerous to their own women. It is this racial framing which also makes Palestinians appear as a redundant population that can be expended. So dehumanizing is this discourse that outrage for Israel's targeting of civilians did not happen until April, when Israel targeted 7 humanitarian aid workers with the World Food Cafe the first time. The attack finally prompted the Wall Street Journal editorial board to question Israel's war, noting that, quote, it had achieved neither of its war goals of returning all the hostages and successfully routing Hamas from Gaza, continuing that despite tactical gains, a strategic victory was far off. Our 35,000 dead at that point in April were not enough to compel that conclusion. Neither were the 4 premature babies who rotted in the NICU. Neither was the voice of Hind Rajab pleading for someone to save her, nor was the image of what was left of Sidra Hassuna's body hanging from the beam of what remained of her home and her body enough. The horrors from Al-Shifa were not enough, not the 300 dead, not the decaying bodies being feasted upon by ravaged dogs and cats, not the corpses whose arms were zip-tied and featuring bullet wounds of execution, not the gutting of the largest hospital in the north. Our lives were not enough.
Shame.
Shame.
We did not even qualify for a presumption of innocence. And just as we were rendered into nothingness, our power is also being outright denied. As Yazan Zaza of the Palestinian Feminist Collective has pointed out, it was Palestinians and an anti-genocide movement that made clear that Biden was unfit to run for office. And yet our role was not acknowledged. Now the entirety of this election could be swung by the anti-genocide movement, so much so that the Democratic Party, in another bid of gaslighting and deflecting of their responsibility, has described our calls to end the slaughter of babies as being pro-Trump. It was our power. It was our power that catalyzed the South African petition at the ICJ. It was our power that catalyzed, finally, for the Office of the Prosecutor of the ICC to request arrest warrants. It was our power that catalyzed the split between the global North and the global South and illuminated the colonial nature of the world. It was the power of our people that mobilized Palestine Action to shut down 3 Elbit firms in the UK and the first one in Cambridge. In the words of Rafik Ziyadeh, who could not be with us tonight, Palestinians have taught the world life. They continue to teach the world life, like the 6 prisoners who used spoons to dig themselves out from one of the highest security prisons in the world. They teach life, like Dr. Amira Assouli, who braved sniper fire to collect the body of a patient, of a fallen patient. Like citizen journalists Bisan Ode and Hind Khudari, who continue to report from the ground. They continue to report from the ground, knowing full well that their press vests are targets for execution. It is our people. It is our people who are still standing today, despite 11 months of ruthless bombardment by the only nuclear power in the Middle East, backed by the largest power in the world, together with arms from Germany, the UK, and Italy. We continue to stand. It is our front line in diaspora, organizing across the globe, the front line of Palestinian women who are predominantly, I should say, hijabi, and that matters, who are the epitome of feminism and power in this moment, defying expectations and setting new standards of what is feminism and what is power. We are power. We are life, and we are victorious. Thank you for being here.
That was
and
a
for
great
committing to that
speech.
work, not only with the words that
She's
we share,
awesome.
but with the energy that we invest and with the trust that we have in one another, enough to organize, not just to
Not
be
even
fierce
mad at
and
it.
brave, but to be incredibly, incredibly smart. Thank you.
Not even mad at it. Okay, so real quick, Fluffy Cow Respecter. Israel are the settler colonists. Colonist means privatizing indigenous land under the oppressive force of capitalism. Prior to Israel colonizing Palestinian land, the land was owned by the collective, the indigenous, the Palestinians. Israel came in, stole the land. That's what made them the settler colonists. That's why it's capitalist.
Whew. This panel just keeps getting better and better. Our final speaker is Linda Sarsour, speaking of incredible Palestinian hijabis.
Because
Linda
it's conservative
Sarsour
propaganda
is a
that it
Brooklyn-born
doesn't.
Palestinian Muslim American community organizer and mother of 3. She's the former executive director of the Arab American Association of New York and co-founder of the first Muslim online organizing platform, Empower Change, as well as Until Freedom, a
Linda
national
Sarsour.
racial justice organization
Yes.
working with Black and
Linda.
Brown communities.
Linda
across the country.
Sarsour.
Linda.
Welcome, Linda. Welcome. Ooh, Linda's gotten big girl. That's all right.
Thank you, Sumaya. Assalamu alaikum. May
She's
peace
gained
and
weight,
blessings
though.
be upon you all. I am deeply honored and humbled to be on the stage
For the
here
record,
today.
I'm not as
I
big as
was
her.
here also last week,
Not.
and I decided to come back to
People think
Chicago
I
to
am.
cleanse
That's why I point
myself
that
of
out.
the dehumanization that Palestinian Americans experienced just a few days ago. There's not much more that I can say, and I've been having a hard time over the last almost 11 months now finding words. What words do we have left for the last 11 months of destruction, of chaos, of bloodshed,
Pretty much. That's a
of
good
horror,
summary.
of grief? So I want to say to those and my colleagues here up on the stage, in particular my Palestinian American comrades, and those that I recognize here in this audience today, that I have an ode to you. And I want to tell all our friends in this room, with all humility, that I am in awe of Palestinian American organizers
It's
and
not.
activists
That's
who get up every
conservative
day.
propaganda.
Not just our parents who grieve over watching television, or people who just watch the videos and watch the children blown up to pieces, but those of us who get up every day amidst our grief, in the midst of our own trauma, and we organize for our people. We could decide to stay home and lay in our beds, but we get up just like our people in Gaza get up, just like our people in the West Bank get up, just like Palestinian refugees all over the diaspora get up. So to the Palestinians here, I see you, and I love you, and I pray for you, because our people count on us. We are the hope that our Palestinians have in Palestine. And it is why I am devastated every single day as a Palestinian American that we have not been able to stop the genocide against the Palestinian people. There were many moments that I wanted to give up. And for those of you that don't know much about Muslims, I'm going to tell you something that has devastated me the most about all that we have witnessed in Gaza. We as Muslims have great responsibility to the dead. And so there's no, we couldn't find the body, they'll just figure it out, we just cry. We have to, we have a religious obligation to bury our dead with dignity. So what is happening in Gaza now? Your family member was blown up in a massacre, burned in a tent. And so you come to the place and they ask you, was it a man or a child? How tall were they? How much did they weigh? 30 kilograms, 20 kilograms, 40 kilograms? And then they go fetch a plastic bag and they fill it up to the weight of what you described, and they walk away to fulfill their religious obligation to bury their dead loved ones. This is what we are experiencing today. I just want to make a few things clear. We are not a movement asking for a speaking slot at the Democratic National Convention. Just make sure that this is clear to everybody.
These
here.
are not Democrats. These are socialists and communists.
The Palestinian people are people of great dignity and pride. There was a reasonable request that was made. And exactly what we thought would happen happened. Just to make sure that it was clear. And the conversation that's happening about Palestinians without the Palestinians and our Arab American and Muslim voters is we're expected to play point guard in an election that when the championship happens, we don't get a ring. We are supposed to be part of an all that does not include us.
Called out Democrats by communists, real ones.
We are more worthy than that, my friends. We owe our people a lot more than that. And you owe us too. In this moment, this is not, it happened a month ago. We're commemorating a year because it's been past the year. We are living a real-time genocide right now, paid for by US taxpayer dollars. Let's not even go that far. It's paid for by you and you and you and you and you and me. I, a Palestinian American, pay for the death and destruction of my own people. And I live with that every single day. We got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. And there were moments where I was giving up. I said to myself many moments, I said, why would I want to live in a world like this? What's my purpose of living in this world right now? What makes me more honorable than the Palestinians of Gaza? Why was it that I, as a Palestinian American, that my parents got the opportunity to flee a military occupation so that I could be born here in the United States? And what makes me more honorable than the people of Gaza? And I think about that often as a daughter of Palestinian immigrants. And so you better believe that every day when I wake up, when Sumaya wakes up, when Noura wakes up, when George wakes up, when Abdulrazak, we get up to honor the sacrifices of our parents who left their home in Palestine so that I could be born in these United States of America. So you better believe we're going to make our parents' journey worth it to this country. I'm making my parents' journey worth it to this country. And so in those moments when I want to give up, Our families in Gaza haven't given up. They still believe in freedom. They still believe in liberation. They still believe in a free Palestine.
Hasn't been bad, human centipede, actually.
And then I saw young people across this country. Just when it was getting dark and bleak, the young people rose up. They said, Harvard University? You could take that degree. XYZ law firm, take that job offer back. This, my friends, is the kind of courage and bravery that is required from all of us in this room. Someone recently wrote on social media, because I'm a part of this, so just to be clear, we're reflecting here together. Somebody said the revolution does not have a 501c3 status. And I think about that all the time. Because many of us who lead Black and brown and marginalized people-led organizations are part of the nonprofit industrial complex. We just got to be honest with that. We can't act like we're not part of the problem. We perform and we compete for funding and we compete with sister organizations. We are willing sometimes to go forward, even if that means others got to be left behind. Don't talk about all the external forces. We do a lot of good talking about that. We know what all the external forces are.
Not the point.
The question is, what are we doing to be better? Because it is us that has to do better. I'm more disappointed sometimes in us than I am of those external forces who try to destroy our movements. Because if we had true, deep, genuine solidarity, one that allows us to sacrifice for one another, that allows us to give up for others, even if that means we lose a little, we couldn't be infiltrated. We couldn't be fractured. We couldn't be divided. And we couldn't be running around hustling for the little crumbs that are out there so we could organize our work. Sometimes I start talking to people in this country about a strike. And I be online talking about we need a mass strike in this country, right? Workers all across the country. And then people in the movement, some people in the movement will look me in the eye and say, Linda, you're so privileged because that's your job. You're an organizer. What about the people who got children? What about the people who got to pay bills? What about the working class and the poor? And in my mind, I start laughing to myself. And I said, please tell me what revolution or what liberation movement in this world was led by the rich and privileged. It was always the working class, the most marginalized, the downtrodden that have been leaders of revolution and liberation all over the world. It is only in the American context that it is a privilege to say that we should have a mass strike to end genocide. People have had revolutions for far less than a genocide. Sometimes I wonder, is it just the American people? Because I am a very privileged person. And I've had the pleasure and honor and privilege to travel around the world. And I don't mean this to all of you in this room because many of you are friends of mine and organizers, but in general, when it comes to fighting for justice, the American people are the laziest people on earth when it comes to fighting for justice.
Hey, that's true enough, Linda. I agree. I agree.
Roll back affirmative action. Overturned Roe versus Wade. Horror at the border. Literally ripped the children from their mother's arms. Mass police killings. This year alone, I think there's only been 10 days this year in 2024 where there was not a police killing in America. For God's sake, Sonia Massey was shot in the face probably 30 miles from here. And not one person on that DNC stage said a thing, and they put an armed cop on the stage to tell us that crime is down and funding for cops is up. I mean, my friends, all the work that we have done, some of us for over 2 decades, some of you in this room probably for 4 and 5 decades, we have found ourselves in a place where we're moving more to the right than I've at least seen in my lifetime. We are the first generation in American history that has to tell our daughters and children that they have less rights than we had and our mothers had in this country. What does that say about our generation? What does that say? Even from the days of the foundings of these United States of America, where we know it was on the extermination of indigenous people and on the enslavement of Black people, but every single generation there was like a little progress. Our ancestors died, shed blood on this earth for us, so we could have the basic privileges and rights that we have today. What are we gonna say that we sacrificed? What are you gonna do and look your daughter in the eye, granddaughter, and what are you gonna say that you did? What did you sacrifice? For me, when I get up in the morning, yes, I'm horrified by genocide, but even before a genocide, I wake up disappointed. I wake up disappointed. But the least that we can all do in this room, as someone said before,
hey, Peter, what's the definition of capitalism? Divine it for us in the chat. What is their definition of capitalism?
I'm going to be able to say I did everything that I could. If I have something that somebody wants, take it. That I did what I could, I said what I could say, and I was not afraid, and I was not intimidated. Sometimes people will send me an article, and they say, Linda, I don't know if you saw this, but there's this article. And I said, before you read that, I read about 25 other ones. Imagine caring with those who oppose my values, that oppose what I stand for, care about me or what they have to say about me. Who are we afraid of? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of the opposition defining who you are? In fact, if the opposition is not talking badly about me, I'm doing something wrong. I'm like fired up the next day. I'm like, I gotta do something. I'm just gonna wrap up with this. The people of Gaza, our people of Gaza, they have given us everything. Everything. Their children. I don't post those videos anymore. Ain't no more dead babies that are going to move anyone if you are not already moved. They've shown us great dignity and resilience. They showed us true sisterhood and brotherhood amidst the horror. Babies cry for their mothers in hospitals, not knowing that their mothers have been martyred. And another woman naturally picks up the child as her own. Sometimes children are crying over what you believe to be their mothers, but in fact, those women are their caretakers because their mothers may have already been martyred at another time. I am asking all of us to leave here, to leave this conference more focused and more steadfast. And do not allow anybody to tell you that our liberation is somehow in the context of an electoral cycle. that your path to liberation is somehow confined to a ballot box. Trust me, I'm an electoral organizer myself. So I don't need nobody to lecture me about electoral politics. I'm still going to the polls because I got school board members and state legislators who have been trying to suppress you and pass some of the most horrific pieces of legislation, yes, under a Democratic administration. This is not always about the top of the ticket. All politics is local. So don't be mad enough that you don't go to the polls at all, knowing that those in local politics are what have real impact on your public education funding, hospitals and mental health services, police reform and police accountability.
That wasn't the question I asked. I asked you to define capitalism.
So you
Can you
better
define
believe
capitalism?
that you're going to see me knock them doors.
Can you define capitalism? Do you know what's going
but
on
I will
here?
always knock doors with principles.
Do you have any idea what's going on
and with
here,
my
Peter? You're just mouthing
values.
off in my chat.
And with
define
those that I
capitalism for us.
love,
Give it a try.
those that I organize, centered in the ways in which I show up in this movement. But I'm letting you know that this, my friends, is a marathon. And
Peter
we've been
thinks
here
we're
a long
socialists,
time.
guys. He
Our
thinks we're
parents have been
communists.
here
Peter
for a
is very
long time.
confused.
The question is, are you going to be here for a long time? And as our indigenous elders have taught us, 7 generations to come. And I used to believe that I would not be here to witness a free Palestine. And I used to tell myself that I'm going to plant whatever seeds that I have. So one day, generations from now, Palestinian children would live in joy in a free Palestine. And then I watched Gaza and the resilience of the people of Gaza and the people of the West Bank, watched the solidarity movements of the United States of America and across the world. And my parents said to me, Linda, I never felt Palestine, a free Palestine, this close before. And if my parents, survivors of Nakba and Naksa, could feel closer to a free Palestine, then we are going to see it within our lifetime.
Yeah, true,
Stay
Joseph.
bold,
True.
stay courageous,
Very
stay
true.
focused, stay in community. Do not be divided in this moment, because there are little babies in Gaza right now who are counting on you. And I tell people all the time, the vision that I give myself to get up out of that bed every morning is that one day I will be on the
Peter,
beaches
if
of
you
Gaza,
have to Google it, you don't know what
under
you're
a
talking about
beautiful,
and you're not
clear
on
blue
our level,
sky.
bro.
And
If
the
you have to
only
Google
two
it,
sounds that I will
just say
hear
you don't know and admit you
are the
aren't on our
waves
level.
hitting the
You're so
shore
fucking confused. You don't even know
and
where
the
you
sound
are.
of the laughter
You think you're going to give us
of the
advice?
children of Gaza.
Figure out what we're doing here
and
first,
you
bro.
will all be welcomed there. Assalamu alaikum.
No one in my chat needs to Google what the definition of
Thank you,
capitalism is,
Linda.
Peter. You have to catch up to
A final
us.
applause
You
for all
are
of our
not on our
panelists.
level. Don't come into our air space and think you can tell us what's what.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Are you
and we'll see you
retarded?
throughout the conference.
Are you literally retarded? Why do all these conservatives, why are all these conservatives so retarded?
I teach at Amherst.
Are you a retard, John? What's your IQ level? Come on, be honest. Like 65?
So many of y'all on the stage.
Maybe 70? Is that what we're talking about, John? We're gonna let this wrap. We're gonna let this play for a minute. I want to see what happens on the live stream. No, don't time him out, Nick.
I'll be back.
How many retarded conservatives will we get in the chat over the weekend? Yeah. We're just gonna let the live stream go for a second, guys. Oh, looks like they're cutting it off. All right, all right. Well, the dumbass conservatives showed up for the end of the stream, but I actually thought that was pretty good. I have to admit that college professor from Rutgers was pretty great. No Q&A tonight because this is probably the keynote. They probably have a book signing or something like that. And so that is the opening keynote of the Socialism Conference, guys. What did everyone think? Now, listen. This is just the opening act. This is just the opening act because tomorrow, and you can find this over on the Substack, which is Carlin, KARLIN.substack.com. Let me just put this in the chat. Now, for all of the retarded conservatives who have showed up, because it is inevitably retarded conservatives who do this. Retarded conservatives show up and they make the assumption that we're all communists and I'm a communist because I have a funny haircut. And of course, conservatives believe that you can tell someone's political affiliation by their haircut, even though I am more right-leaning than most conservatives by like not an insignificant degree. But conservatives show up here and they're like, "You're a communist!" And then they proceed to try to tell me what's what, and they really think that they can teach me about why communism is bad. And I'm like, bro, you don't even know how to define capitalism. Like, what even the fuck are you talking about? Yup. Well, we are watching the Socialism Conference. James Lindsay is off sticking his sword in the MILFs. You know what? We're not even going to talk about James Lindsay this weekend. James Lindsay is beneath all of us. Well, it's a socialism weekend. What do you want me to do? Listen, man. If you can't figure out that I'm anti-communist, then this is an IQ test. I consider this to be an IQ test. I'm very serious about the IQ test. I'm very serious about the IQ requirement to watch content on my channel. I'm turning my microphone down a little bit, guys. It's loud. I'm very serious about this IQ test. Because we can't just have stupid people running around. If you can't figure out that I'm not in favor of communism and socialism by, I don't know, looking at the content on my channel or looking at my Substack or looking at my Twitter account or doing the basic bit of research before you come here, then you are just not high enough IQ to be on this channel. It's just the way it goes, man. John, right now, John, listen, bro, listen. I don't think you're smart enough to be here, John. And so I'm very sorry. It's me. It's not you. You are permanently banned. Goodbye. We don't need you disrupting our space. We don't need that. Anyway, what we just did was just a taste. It was a little minute taste of what we are going to be doing this weekend. Because we watched one presentation, but there's going to be a lot more coming tomorrow. What I want you to do is go over to my Substack and I want you to click on the main image, streaming the Socialism 2024 conference all weekend long, and you will find our streaming schedule. We are going to be starting tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Let me tell you guys what, you know I love you because I'm getting out of bed to start streaming at 11 a.m. I very rarely do this. I'm doing it for you. We are going to start streaming at 11 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. The first session will be the genocidal returns of lesser evilism, the U.S. elections, and leftist strategy. Then at 2 p.m., we are going to be watching Dismantling Imperial Feminism with a group called NYC for Abortion Rights. So that's going to be about reproductive justice and the patriarchy. At 4 p.m., we're going to be watching Capital and Abolition with one of the patron saints of socialism, Ruth Wilson Gilmore. And then at 8 p.m. tomorrow, we're going to be watching Palestine and the Limits of International Law. I'm not sure about that one. We're going to watch it. We're going to see how it goes. That's the only session I'm really unsure about, though. So we have got a full day of socialism tomorrow. We are going to be streaming for 10 and a half hours tomorrow. Now, there are going to be breaks. Don't worry, there are going to be breaks in there. I might be covering some other socialism content in between. I might also just be taking breaks. We also might be going back and watching some of the sessions that we missed because they're broadcasting multiple sessions simultaneously. So we can go back and watch, the sessions that we didn't watch in the first one if you want. I'm fully committed to this. I'm going to be streaming all weekend. So you guys can obviously come and go as you please. And then on Sunday, we have a whole other schedule for Sunday as well. And then on Sunday night, we will take our leave. And if you are a supporter on my Substack or my locals, you will be invited to join my supporter Discord. And I really want to, I have a goal, guys. I want to get 100 new supporters on my Substack this weekend. We are already up to 13. So I think that's pretty good. We've only been going a couple hours. So I think that that's pretty good so far. I would love to get 100 new monthly or annual supporters on my Substack. Again, that's carlin.substack.com. You can find the link on the screen or it's in the description below. This is how you guys can support me. This is what funds all this stuff. This is what allows me to stream with you guys all weekend instead of doing other stuff. So please help me meet the goal of 100 supporters this weekend. Daniel with the $50 super sticker. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. I do appreciate it. Hang on. Let me just update our, that means we hit our super chat total for today. Thank you, Daniel. Wonderful supporter. So how you get into the supporter Discord if you're already a supporter is, here's what you do. You go over to the Substack, you go to the Unwoke Roundup, and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, and underneath this red box, you will find a link to the supporter Discord. That link should still work. If it doesn't, I will be sending out a new link before movie night, but the link in the Unwoke Roundup should still work for now. And that's just on the homepage. It's right up here. So just go to that, scroll to the bottom. You'll be able to find the link. Go in, let us know that you are a supporter on Substack, and we'll let you in. Did you just renew your subscription letter? Because I'm only counting new ones. So I'm only counting new ones for this goal. So if you renewed your subscription, I appreciate it. But I'm only counting new ones for the goal because I want new people. Not that I don't love you, not that I don't appreciate you. So guys, that is how I do fund the work, is through subscriptions on my Substack. And as a reward, after we finish a full weekend of socialism, we will be watching A Clockwork Orange in my supporter Discord, just as a little kind of like reprieve. Hey, Paul, do you promise me that when on Tuesday you will become a supporter? Because if you pinky swear and promise me that you will when you can, I will count your supporter status as part of the goal. Okay? And if we hit the goal, we're going to get a prize. I don't know what that prize is yet, but if we hit the goal, we're going to get a prize. And I think, watching A Clockwork Orange with me on Sunday at 8 p.m. might be prize enough for some people, but maybe not for others. And so that's what we're going to do. Anyway, guys, another way you can support the work I'm doing is by heading over to the Unwoke Art store. That is unwokeart.com. We've got some great Socialism Weekend merchandise specials, including the Real Marxism shirt, the Socialists Are Gay shirt, and 2 Socialists Always Lie designs. And we've got them in t-shirts, we've got them in hoodies, we've got them in sweatshirts, we've got them in mugs, there are bags, there are tumblers, all sorts of stuff. That is in the Unwoke Art store, unwokeart.com, where you can also just get some sweet, sweet merch and gifts. And if you get any of the designs in this collection, you're going to get 25% off this weekend only. So if you've been waiting for those, then, hey, get them now because it's 25% off. Why not? Why not? All right, guys, that is all I have for tonight. Again, we will be reconvening tomorrow. Hang on. Here we go. Hang on. Let me put myself. Bing. There we go. We will be reconvening tomorrow at 11 a.m. Only for you guys would I get up this early. Only for you. But I will see you in the morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and I'm going to go take my reprieve, and I'm going to go chill out because we've got a full weekend of work ahead of us. I hope everyone has some snacks lined up. Everyone has some alcohol. I only had 1 beer today, but I have more beers tomorrow. Don't worry. All right, guys. That's all I've got. Thank you for spending some time with me. I appreciate it. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.